Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show. Powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960 or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. And follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful lady who worked for some time in Hollywood and also lived in rural Utah. She spent a couple years as the head animal costumer for Nick Jr. Mutton Stuff and did some time with acting. She appeared in a few films, and you also been in 18 commercials for Barbie, Cadoba, Paw Patrol, and more. And you also shot a feature film in Alaska and also has a book out as well, too. She's also an author called The Purple Eye. We'll talk more about that. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plush Studios in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, the author of The Purple Eye, wonderful actress and more, Shelise Ann Sola. Shelise, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you
today.
so much for having me. Good.
Well, it's great to have you in as well, too. So you spent about 2 years as a head animal costumer on Nick Jr.'s Mutton Stuff. You also did some acting as well, too. And you also been in 18 commercials, including Barbie, Cadoba, Paw Patrol, and more. You also shot a feature film in Alaska. You also did some work with Universal Studios and Crip TV. And you also went to Las Vegas and graduated in fashion design. You also went to London for a little bit. And you also have a book that's called The Purple Lie, which is your own story, and you're leaving Mormonism and finding spirituality, healing childhood, and sexual abuse. And before we get into all that, tell us how I first got started.
How I first got started with everything, I guess.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and start and then work our way up. I mean, got to start somewhere, so.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be an actor since I was a kid. I was always begging my mom to put me on Disney Channel, which was virtually impossible, seeing as where we lived. But I kept at it. I kept trying. I was able to do a few gigs in Portland when I moved there my senior year of high school. And then I ended up in Las Vegas to get my Bachelor of Fine Art and Fashion Design degree. And so that's when I started doing a little bit more, I guess you could say, legitimate or mainstream television, and jumped into a few things there. And that's what helped me get started to start acting when I moved to Los Angeles a couple years later once I graduated.
And was it one moment that precisely influenced you into what you're doing? So in other words, was it one moment that said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
I don't know if there was a specific moment. It was just something that I always wanted to do. I always felt like I wanted to be on stage. And I guess you could say it was this alter ego, because in real life, I was very quiet and shy and didn't really speak a whole lot. But then if you put a camera on, I was like, oh, I'm a big performer. And I would just like go all out. And so I think it was a safe space for me to really explore different parts of myself in a safe way, a non-judgmental way.
Mm-hmm. And who are some of your favorite actors or who are some of your favorite actors, actresses, and movies and also Broadway musicals growing up?
Yeah, my mom actually did take me to quite a few musicals and theater when I was really little. It was one of my favorite things, was to get all dressed up and go to the theater. But I can't say I saw any major shows until I was about 12 when I went to New York. I would say that my favorite, though, is more of a television or a cinematic type of feel. And one of my favorite actors today is Nicole Kidman. I think she's brilliant, and I love all of her different movies, especially Moulin Rouge is my favorite movie because they're singing and dancing and love and just all of the above. And also an actress who I think is quite underestimated very often is Jennifer Aniston. Because if you watch her performances, they're very subtle and raw and real. And not once have I ever not believed what she was saying. She is just so authentic.
Mm-hmm. And how big of a fan are you of Friends? The TV?
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't actually grow up watching it, and I don't really know why, but as an adult, I watched the entire series, like front to back, and I'm so glad that I did because there's just so much gold in there.
And what are some of the other favorite movies you enjoyed watching?
I do really love scary movies. So I would have to say that still in my top five would be The Ring. I think that is such a good classic scary movie because it's based on the suspense and there's not so many jump scares, kind of like what people do and resort to now in scary movies. There's just so much intensity in that.
And you also been in Crypt TV as well too, like Happy Death Day, Universal Studios, Get Out, and some other ventures. Maybe just tell a bit about it. And you also shot a feature film in Alaska. Must have been very fun for you.
Yeah, so what I did for Universal Studios and Crypt TV was actually their marketing for the major films. So what they did is they teamed up with Crypt TV to create these mini kind of parallel storylines, and then they made like a viral video happen to promote the film coming out. So what we did for Happy Death Day, it was a lot of fun. It was actually shot in a 360 view selfie style. So I was holding the camera, which was the phone, the whole time, and I would keep dying at this party, and it was up to the audience to try and figure out who my killer was based on the film. So it was a fun little interactive marketing video that I did for that. And then, yeah, the feature film in Alaska, that was definitely an experience. Such a beautiful place out there. And I'm actually still waiting for that to come out.
Oh, really? Okay. We like to hear more about it. And I can imagine right now doing some selfies, trying to do a show here. It's like, help, I'm dying. So,
Yeah, that was definitely a challenge because not only was I the actress, but I was the cameraman. And at some points they were like, okay, make sure the camera sees this and then make sure the camera sees that. Make sure you don't drop the phone too soon so we see the killer partially. It was like really complicated. And not only that, but it was all in one take. So normally when you're acting in a scene, you'll do the entire scene start to finish, but they'll cut in between so that you don't have to have each line perfect. But with this, we had one 5 minute take and we couldn't cut in between. And so
oh,
it was really challenging to get all of the moving pieces to happen in the particular order that it needed to. So it was fun.
I guess it makes a Blair Witch Project seem like a very, very old fashioned movie, it seems like. So,
Yeah.
and what are some of your other projects you got coming up since we're on that subject?
Yeah, so man, this pandemic has really put a stop to a lot of things, unfortunately. But there was a feature film that we shot a teaser for in Miami around May. And I don't know how much I can say about it, but it's a comedy. It's a lot of fun. I play the character that's kind of a little bit of the bitch, which was the first time I had done that. So that was fun. But just kind of like the sexy salsa dancing, like bitch type that is trying to woo over the main character, and it's not working very well. So, yeah, we're looking to get that produced to do the actual entire feature film very soon.
Okay, and also during the time of the pandemic, you also took time to write a book, The Purple Eye. We'll talk more about that, but first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, along with Amazon, Audible, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with actress, also a little bit of fashion designer, and author Shelise Ann Sola here on the Mike Wagner Show, talking about some of her work, along with doing Universal TV. Nick Jr.'s Mutton Stuff, talked a little bit about that, and also did some feature film work. And during the pandemic, she also is an author of the book called The Purple Lie, which is Leaving Mormonism, Finding Spirituality, and Healing Childhood Sexual Abuse. And first of all, tell us more about the book and what inspired you to write it.
Sure. So I want to make sure we are aware. I'm writing the book now, so it's not published yet. I'm just starting to, I've written the book proposal. I'm looking to get a great publisher, but I have started writing it, and I am releasing excerpts from the book throughout my blog. So if you're interested in that, you can go to shaliseannsola.com and kind of go along the journey with me. So it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a ride. It's one of those things where I never thought I would ever be an author. And then I experienced this beautiful plant ceremony in Peru and basically was just told, well, you're going to write a book now. And so.
Oh, really? Who told you that?
It was actually in my ceremony we were doing an ayahuasca ceremony. And it was just this, I guess you could call it an entity that just told me that that's what I was meant to do. And so, at first I was like, no, you're crazy. I'm not going to do that. Like, what would I even write it about? And then one of my friends who was there with me, he said, oh, I can't wait to read the book about your life. And I was like, who said it's going to be about me? And he was like, are you kidding? You have the most interesting backstory. You grew up Mormon in the Mormon church, and then you left the church radically and was like, I'm done with that. And then you found spirituality, and then you uncovered childhood sexual trauma. This was only a couple years ago, and now you're in Peru doing plant medicine in the Amazon rainforest. I was like, okay, I guess that sounds kind of interesting.
And what inspired you to go to Peru, do some plant medicine? What inspired you to go there?
It was actually for a job, which is why it's so crazy. Yeah, it was an acting job, and the way it came about was so awesome. I had been hearing about ayahuasca, and growing up Mormon, everything having to do with drugs, I guess you could say, is just totally frowned upon. It's wrong, it's bad, it's sinful, whatever. And so I always had this really negative connotation toward anything that would make me a little bit out of control. But I started hearing about ayahuasca and started researching and realizing that it really is a plant medicine that's been used for centuries with the indigenous people. And I became more interested in it. And then I had remembered this casting that I submitted myself for, which was looking for girls and guys to go to the Amazon and experience a retreat. And they didn't say ayahuasca, but they said sound baths and breath work and flower baths and meditation. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I had remembered I hadn't heard back from them. And so I looked it up. The casting was taken down, but the name Arcana was on there. And so I went to their website and I found out that it was an actual ayahuasca retreat center, and it blew my mind. And I was like, I have to contact these people because this is meant for me. I'm supposed to go here. And so I emailed them directly and I was like, hey, I'm your girl. So this is why I want to come here. I want to help release some childhood sexual abuse. I want to find peace and find healing. And the next day, I ended up meeting the casting director and producer for coffee. And 4 days later, I was on a plane to Peru. So.
Wow. What a journey. I was going to say, having coffee and everything like that. Was that considered a sin in the Mormon church or something, or what? Having coffee?
Oh, coffee is considered a sin, yes. And it's very silly. I mean, I've tried to figure out the whole purpose of it. They don't even really know. At this point, it just comes down to the fact of being obedient. But it's funny because I've actually never even had a cup of coffee. Not because I felt like it was bad, but I just never liked the taste.
I'm sorry. Did I tempt you on that one? Oh, heaven help me. Heaven forgive me.
Oh, no worries. I've been out of the church for 10 years, so please tempt away.
I'm kidding right there. So you did grow up in rural Utah. You grew up in a Mormon church, and you also experienced all kinds of abuse. And what was it like growing up in rural Utah and going through the Mormon church?
It's funny because I don't think that I really knew anything was off because everyone was Mormon. So it wasn't like I knew I was in something weird until I left. And even now, I'm still uncovering things and I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird that we did that. But I didn't really understand it. So growing up in a small town, it was just like any other small town in the Midwest. 15 miles away from school, living up in the mountain type of thing with a couple stoplights and 2 grocery stores, and that's about it.
Um,
Yeah, but the people were all really great. There is that sense of community that you get with a small town. Everyone cares about everyone, and it was a good place to grow up. I don't regret growing up there, and I don't regret growing up Mormon because it did shape who I am today, and it did give me some positive things in my life as well.
but there's also some things came out too that you went through some abuse and everything like that. And is that getting widespread in the Mormon church, or is it getting like just in that one area? And how rampant has it been as well too?
Unfortunately, childhood sexual abuse is very common in Utah, and I don't know if you can directly correlate it to Mormonism. I'm not sure, but I do know that the culture itself is very hush hush and like a perfectionist culture. So whenever you have that type of, the having to be a perfect Mormon image, you don't want to ruin that. So a lot of things kind of happen behind closed doors, and unfortunately a lot of things don't get taken care of properly because the bishop just takes care of it instead of taking it to, for example, the legal system. So I can't speak to everyone. I mean, I had my own experience, but I don't want to say it's linked to Mormonism, but there are a lot of high cases of abuse in Utah.
hmm and that's also getting profiled as well too. So be careful as well. And I guess basically just getting to your book, it's like what should we learn from this in the book, The Purple Eye?
Right. So it is a teaching memoir, which means I'm not only going to talk about my life, but I'm going to have chapter reflection sections that allow the reader to reflect on their own life. And all of this will be based on lessons that I learned within a particular chapter. So, for example, one of my chapters is leaving Mormons for hippies, and that's what I moved. The first time I experienced anything outside of Utah when I moved my senior year to Portland, Oregon. And in that chapter, I talk about how one of my best friends at the time had this religious intervention with me and sat me down and was like, if you don't believe that God is your savior, if you don't believe Jesus is God the Father, you're going to hell. And I was like totally shook. I'm like, what? And she was telling me all these things about Mormonism that she found out. And I was just like, listen, none of those are true. I would know because I'm Mormon. The thing is, though, as a Mormon, you're very sheltered as to what you're allowed to read. And so so the things that she was telling me were actually true. I just didn't know that. And so even though I did my own research that night, I still wasn't ready to receive the information. I wasn't ready to believe it. And so in the chapter reflection section, I talk about what is something that maybe you have had red flags about in your life, maybe has presented itself as questionable, and why did you decide to discard that information? Is there something you can do to change your perspective and look at these situations in a different light that might actually help you?
hmm and of course, navigating from a surface or rock level life to a deep understanding of spirituality and forgiveness. And it has to be a really, really tough process. Maybe in a nutshell, you can just streamline it to, how that can be done. So I'm sure it's a pretty lengthy process, but you can probably put it in a nutshell.
Yeah, of course, and it's taken a few years and it's still happening. I don't think we're ever completely fixed, right? Because life continues to go on and things continue to happen. But what I've found is really just trusting myself, trusting my instincts, going inside for the answers rather than looking outside of me. So a lot of what I'm doing in the Purple Eye is about introspection, which is really where the name came from. The purple eye referring to the third eye, which is all about looking inside yourself for answers rather than outside of yourself. So I think that's the major takeaway, is just being able to really sit with yourself, analyze your feelings, analyze your emotions, and more than analyze, really feel them and dive into them instead of pushing them down and suppressing them.
hmm And then where can we find the Purple Eye at?
I'm sorry, what?
And where can we find the book, The Purple Eye, at as soon as it's finished?
To be determined. So if you are interested, definitely head over to my website, shaliseannsola.com. You can enter your email to be put on my email list, and that's when I'll definitely shout out updates, give you book excerpts, and other blog posts related to the book.
That is very fantastic. Once again, author Shelise Ann Sola here, the Mike Wagner Show, and we have a couple of minutes right here. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with actress and also author Shelise Ann Sola here on the Mike Wagner Show, talking about her really fabulous career. Getting involved with Nick Jr., Crypt TV, appearance in commercials, and also the author of the book The Purple Eye, which is coming out somewhere down the road. And what can we expect from you in 2021 and beyond? What else?
Well, something that I noticed during this quarantine was that something that really excites me is learning about ancient civilizations, anything to do with spirituality, because it has been such a big part of my journey, and anything to do with energy work. And so I decided to create a travel page that was focused around that. So I created Sola Spirit Travels, which is my last name, Spirit Travels. And it's been so much fun just really diving into that. I started blogging about Peru and my experience there with the ayahuasca and the other plant medicines. And then I did a trip to Sedona, and I talk about the vortexes there and a lot of other different practices that I did, such as sound baths and even a sweat lodge with a Native American. And so in 2021, my goal is to really expand on that and to travel more and to find out more about these ancient places, the places that aren't so mainstream, that no one really knows about.
And where can we find more information at?
Head over to Instagram, and you can just look up my username, Sola Spirit Travels.
All right, we will do so. And a couple of things, Shelise, who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
My biggest influence in my career? It's funny because initially you would think it would be someone actually in the industry, but because I'm so all over the place, I would say my biggest influence has been my mom, because she's always shown me how to be positive, upbeat, dedicated, and she's just my best friend.
That is amazing. What's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Trust yourself and live in the moment.
That's a very good thing. Once again, Shelise Ann Sola here on the Mike Wagner Show, author of The Purple Eye and more. A very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to hearing you again soon. Keep us updated. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? And where can people check out your works? And where can people potentially purchase your book?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I would love it if you would head over to my website, SheliseAnnSola.com. You can find me on Instagram at Shelise Ann is my main page, or Sola Spirit Travels, which is the travel page.
We will do that. Once again, Shelise, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot from you. Looking forward to hearing you again soon. Do us a favor. Keep us up to date. We'll have you back on 2021 and beyond. You've been great.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.